How's it going, Dragons? This is JP from the legendary Dragon Duelist, and today I'm going to show you guys a Fluffal deck profile. Fluffals recently got some supports in Rise of the Duelist, and with that support, it allows Fluffals to go first. And they actually now have some pretty powerful going first options, which is why I'm playing them going first. And I do believe that this is the more competitively viable version. And since in this format there's a lot of toxicity still, even though a lot of cards like Jet Synchron and O-Line got banned last ban list, also Adamanticators are gone. I still think it's good to go first, especially with the hand ripping and Dragon Link and stuff. So let's just get right into this deck profile. So first I'm going to start it off with Triple Dog. You definitely need 3 dogs. This is the main card that searches all your Fluffal monsters and Edge Imp Sabres. Which, just search a Fluffal monster, don't search Sabres, man. It only works when you special summon it or normal summon it from the hand. So if you like Monster Reborn it or something, it won't work. You can't use Cross Sheep to bring this back and then use its effect. You could normal summon it and then special summon it with Penguin. Next up we have 2 Fluffle Bear. This is the main card that brings out your toy vendor. It's good when you use it with wings. This card in Fluffal Wings is like a free pot of greed plus a search. It also has another effect where you could tribute it to bring back a polymerization from the graveyard. But we're mainly going to just use the effect to get Toy Vendor. The other effect to get polymerization back, that one's only going to come up in like grind games where maybe you need polymerization. But most of the time we're not going to use that effect. Next up is 2 Wings. This card is of course good when we use it with Toy Vendor in order to get a whole bunch of advantage. It's the main draw power in Fluffals. Next, I'm sorry, I'm going to get some haters, but only 1 Fluffal Penguin. I don't have access to multiple Fluffal Penguins at the moment, but if you do have multiple Penguins, that is a very good idea. I'm not using the Bahamut Toad engine with this, so Penguins and Dolphins are not as necessary as they would be if I was using them. Next, of course, is the 1 Dolphin. This is a good one to make rank 4s with. Also, you could use its effect to have a Toy Vendor and a Wings in the graveyard. And it works very well for that, like if you want to use your Wings if you haven't activated it yet. Next, we have 1 Fluffal Sheep. I was thinking about playing this at 2, but I couldn't really find the space for it. At 1, it's a good extender. The reason why it could be good to play this at 2, there's a cool play that you could do where you special summon 2 sheeps, and then you revive the other sheep to bring back a monster, and then special summon the sheep again from your hand, since the special summon isn't once per turn. And you can target another sheep with its effect. Next, there's 1 Fluffal Cat. Fluffal Cat is mainly good for making more plays with fusion summoning. When you use a polymerization, you fusion summon that and Edge Imp Chain, and then you would activate Edge Imp Chain first and then Fluffal Cat. This helps you play around Ash Blossom. Just keep in mind with this deck, because you can do this a lot, you can chain block your effects that would search. Okay, now for the scary cards, since it's almost Halloween. There's the Edge Imp Sabres. This card, it could be an extender, but it's kind of feels too minusy, and plus I don't really like it that it returns to the top of the deck too much. It's mainly going to be used when we summon Frightfur Tiger. Maybe if you're in a pinch you can search it, I guess. But I wouldn't really search it too much with Toy Vendor or Dog. Next we have 3 Edge Imp Chains. This is probably your best Edge Imp monster. It searches for your Frightfur stuff. If you just have like a polymerization and then this card in any Fluffal monster, that's already a true king of all Calamities. Next we have 3 Edge Imp Scythe. This card is mainly for summoning a whale on the opponent's turn. And with the whale, it helps give us disruption. It also could protect your fusion monsters by banishing itself, so if you do need to interrupt your opponent, this is a good one to use, where you just fusion summon into a Frightfur Whale, and then pop a card on their field, and then you have to choose your own whale to pop. And then you could just use this to protect your whale. Next up is another Scythe with Artifact Scythe. This is mainly to lock our opponent out of the extra deck. The main part of this deck, there's not really much negates in this deck. There's more of like floodgatey effects that we get to in order to lock our opponent out of stuff, and then we go for game on the next turn. This deck does really good against the main decks of this format, which would be Dragon Link and Infernal Knights. So honestly, if you could get Calamities and Artifact Scythe, that could honestly just be game against any deck that uses their extra deck and monsters. It's good against the invoked portion of Dogmatica Invoked. Next we have 2 Ash Blossom, one of them being the Feet Pick Ash Blossom. It's just a pretty generic hand trap that's pretty good in this format. Know that you can't Ash an Anaconda since it sends to the graveyard for cost. I don't play it at 3 because I don't have a 3rd copy, and also because I think 2 is probably just better. It's once per turn anyways. Now a hand trap that isn't once per turn is Effect Baler. There's double Effect Baler. Budget version for Infinite Impermanence. Kind of worse than Infinite Impermanence, so luckily I have Infinite Impermanences, so I'm good. This is just another effect negation, so that's why I'm playing it. A good disruption for Anaconda and Halki Fibrax also. Since we're kind of on the topic on what disrupts things in the meta, when your opponent summons Anaconda first, you actually can use your Edge of Scythe to pop the Anaconda before it could use its effect, like making it so that they can't bring out their Dragoon. And now they just have 3 bricks in the deck that they can't use. Unless they get the Red Ice Fusion or something, but just Ash the Red Ice Fusion and you'll laugh. Getting into the spells, there's triple Polymerization. The Polymerization is, of course, our main fusion summoning card. This is what we're going to use to fusion summon most of the time. It's searchable by your searchable searchers. Next up, there's triple Toy Vendor. Its initial effect to just discard and draw, and then discard it if it's not a Fluffal monster. That effect isn't good for the draw power. It's good because it gets cards in the graveyard, so you would mainly discard a Fluffal Wings with it. So if you had a Fluffle Bear and a Fluffle Wings in the hand, use the bear to set this, then activate it, discard your wings, and now you can use your wings. The best effect about this is when it's sent to the graveyard, you can also search a card, which is really good for combos. Fluffals can actually grind down their deck a lot. I've actually seen Fluffle plays where after their first turn they only have like 7 cards in the main deck. That's because they could just like search through and draw a lot of stuff. Most of the time I don't think your turn is going to be that crazy, but there's a lot of bonus cards in this deck. Also, there's Foolish Burial Goods in here, but you guys will see that later. Because first I'm going to show you triple Frightfur Patchwork. This card just gives you an insane advantage. If you have this card with any Fluffle monster, just could be any Fluffle monster, that's a free True King of all Calamities. Plus your Fluffle monsters are hopefully going to be able to do something also. Next there's 1 Frightfur Fusion. I actually don't mind this card at 2 at all, because there's times where it can come up after your first turn, especially with Anaconda. This helps you get to another whale. This also helps for the OTKs. It works really well when you fusion summon Frightfur Tiger. You could just pop their entire field with it. It's only once per turn. If it wasn't once per turn, I would definitely play 2. Okay, 1 Frightfur Repair. You're not really going to use this first effect much at all. Maybe it could come in a grind game, but you're mainly going to use its second effect. It's just an additional extender with that. Like you could use it as special summon Penguin and then use Penguin as special something else. You're mainly going to send this to the graveyard with your Frightfur Whale, but I guess you can also send it to the graveyard with your triple Foolish Burial Goods. But pretty much all the time you're just going to want to send Toy Vendor to the graveyard with it, and you get bonus cards. Then lastly, for the main deck, it's 3 Infinite Impermanence. It's just a better version of Effect Veiler, as you can also use it on your turn. They have any negates or anything, something you can't out, like a boss monster or something. That's not Dragoon, because you can't target Dragoon. You just slap this boy on. It's really good that you could use it on both turns. And honestly, you could control your opponent if you set it in the same zone that they activate spell and trap cards in. Sometimes people forget about that effect. And that's it for the main deck. Next, for the extra deck, we're playing not 1. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show you 3 whales. There's 3 whales, the best fusion monster, in my opinion, of this deck. I think you can get away with only 2 whales if you're not playing the Dagda Scythe engine. But since I'm playing that, you need 3 whales. It's just the best fusion monster as it helps with your combo. It could be interruption with Scythe. You're using both Scythes actually. You're using your Engine Scythe to fusion summon this, and then your Artifact Scythe, that's going to be your pop target. I say target, but this card doesn't target. Of course, it sends you Frightfur cards to the graveyard. Its gain attack can also come up. This is one of your ways to out Dragoon. It's just by boosting attack. So if you could get like a Tiger and a lot of fusion monsters, you can just attack over Dragoon. If you do have Forbidden Droplet, I should have mentioned this when I was going over the main deck. I would definitely use Forbidden Droplet in this deck. It is really good because not only does it discard some cards you may want in the graveyard, it also works as an interruption for going first, and it's a good going second card also. By the way, I do have Dragoon, but I'm not playing Dragoon in this deck because I feel like Dragoon is not good with Fluffals. When you use Toy Vendor, you could draw Dark Magician, then have to discard it, making it so that now there's just 2 bricks in your deck that are there for no reason. And when I tested Dragoon with this deck, it didn't really work well. Double Frightfur Sabretooth. I'm still playing 2 because I still feel like it's really good. It could be a monster that they have trouble getting over, so Dragoon can't deal with this since Dragoon destroys. Next we have Double Kraken. This is mainly for your going second OTKs. You could use it to pop cards on your opponent's field. Of course, this card and Frightfur Sabretooth is a good combo. Since it's a soft once per turn, you can destroy a card, fusion summon Sabretooth, bring this back, and then use it again. Next for the final fusion monster is single Frightfur Tiger. This card helps your Frightfur monsters gain a ton of attack if you get enough of them on your field. It pops your opponent's field. Sadly, we can't summon this with Scythe. If we could, that would be insane. It can also destroy cards on your field, so you can destroy a Toy Vendor if you need to. Next up for the Link monsters, we have 1 Karas Sheep. This is going to be the card that you use to bring back level 4 lower monsters with. It's good for extending, so you can make a Link 4 maybe, or another Link 2, just like the Artifact Dagda. This of course is just used to get Scythe out. If you're against decks that don't use the extra deck, like maybe Dogmatica Eldritch, it could be a good idea to just side out the Scythe, and now you could just go into other plays. Next for Link 2s we have Predaplant Verte Anaconda. It's a really good card, as it could fusion summon with your Frightfur Fusion. Another reason to use 2 Frightfur Fusions is you could use this to send a Frightfur Fusion again even if you have used a Frightfur Fusion, since technically it's not considered activating a Frightfur Fusion. Next for our last Link 2 is IP Masquerena. This of course is just going to be to link someone on our opponent's turn and to give protection to our Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avramax. This card is a pretty good boss monster that's affordable now because of the Tins of Lost Memories. And next for our Xyz monsters, we of course have the True King of all Calamities. This card is really easy to make in this deck. Honestly, pretty much any hand, unless it's really terrible, can make this card. You just need to be able to fusion summon twice, and that's it. A quick thing that you should know to play around Gamma and Baler, which are pretty popular in this format. You wait for them to have a monster on their field, and then you detach an Xyz material after they summon the monster, so that way they can't imperm or gamma you. And then if they do imperm you when they have no monsters, then just chain Calamities, and once Calamities resolves, it stays resolved. When they summon a monster too, look at what archetype they're playing. That could give you good info on the archetype they're playing. If they're playing Dragon Link, you could declare Dark. And then next, we have the Abyss Dweller as the rank 4. This is just really good in this format, as a lot of decks are trying to use cards from their graveyards. Okay, that was it for the main deck and extra deck. Now I still have a side deck. So there's 3 Nibirus. This is for, it more interrupts combo decks than completely stopping them. Just make sure you hit them at the right time. Like with Dragon Link, there's a very specific time where you should hit them. Wait for them to use their Halki Fibrax and all the stuff. Make them waste their resources first, and then use it before they can get a negate with Apollosa or something. double kaiju. This is mainly used out of Dragoon. Next, since we are a going first deck, for part of the side deck, it's going to have... What did I do with my cards? Triple Dark Ruler No More. Next, for the back row decks, there's triple Twin Twisters. Okay, next, we have triple Evenly Matched. This card is just really good when you're going second. Also, lastly, for our final back row hate, there's one copy of Red Reboot. This is mainly for Dogmaticas and Eldritch. When they use their trap cards, use this. Also Altergeist and Gurus. So that wraps it up for our Fluffle deck profile. The main core of Fluffles is pretty cheap and fairly budget. I would kind of cry over Kraken, though. Kraken is pretty much a must. And with that, just have a wonderful day.